here to get to know Aaron a little bit. I'll let you in on a secret that Aaron and I have known each other for a few years now because we live on the same yeshuv. We are involved in some of the same activities, but over the years we've had kind of casual interactions. In preparing for this evening, we sat together one morning last week, and what I found out about Aaron in just a few-minute conversation made me just so excited to be here. It's gewaldic, mamash.
Should I leave now?
No. One of the reasons, otherwise I wouldn't be so excited to be sitting here in front of everybody, but the reason why I'm so excited to sit here is because for sure I'm not going to fall asleep. That's one thing I know. And I want to be awake. I want to be really alert and ready to hear everything, all the beautiful things you have to tell us. So let's start. How long have you been in Israel?
So it's interesting. We've been here now 8 years. I actually realized that I've been here full time for 7 years. So it's like we were just moving into our new Israeli house last time before Shemitah.
Wow.
It's amazing to think that it's been 7 years. Think of like where we were 7 years ago, where our whole family was. It's amazing. Yeah. I never thought it would be like this.
So tell us about what happened, what it was like before you came to Israel. Let's hear about where you came from.
Well, I mean, I, Baruch Hashem, have been married for over 16 years to a wonderful person who's here, Tamima. And we have 5 wonderful children. And we lived in Boston and in Michigan and some other places and in the States. Both of us went to school. My wife is a veterinarian and I'm a doctor. I'm a radiation oncologist, take care of cancer patients. Mm-hmm. And basically, we were living a really great professional life in America in a lot of ways. But my wife was the main impetus, but she felt and we felt together that we needed to be somewhere else. We needed to be in Israel. Wow. And so one day we were just sitting at home and my wife said to me, "It's time to go."
Wow.
That was about it.
Amazing. How many kids did you have at the time?
At the time, we had 4 kids. Mm-hmm. And we now have 1 Sabra, Baruch Hashem. And it was just to move everybody and change our lives.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Give up a lot of things on the surface. But it was the best thing that my wife ever pulled us to do.
Mm-hmm. What were you doing professionally in America as in your profession?
Yeah, so I trained as a radiation oncologist, and I was working as an attending physician at Dana-Farber, which is part of the Harvard Medical School system. Mm-hmm. In some ways, growing up in Boston as a little kid, working at Harvard was one of the things that I always sort of sought as like maybe one day I'll be able to do that.
Wow.
And so for me, in some ways professionally, it was like the top. I sort of reached, in some ways, where I wanted to be. Obviously, trying to improve, but I was very, very excited to be where I was. So
did you always want to be a doctor?
Totally not. I mean, I grew up with my father as a physician, and I sort of never wanted to be a doctor because he wasn't home as much as I would have liked. Mm-hmm. But as the years kind of went on, I realized that it was a profession that could really help people, and so it was something that I was drawn to. Maybe also because I realized it had a lot of prestige to it. It was important to be a doctor. People treated it called doctor.
And you felt it?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, the idea that especially in the States, when there's so much support in the medical field, there's all kinds of people that you can, residents and students, and that was part of the game that I was playing. I mean, part of what I was taught, sort of brought up to do, was to excel and to achieve and to, move mountains and go higher and sort of just continue to excel and reach more milestones.
Wow. So you pretty much did what you wanted to do. Once you got to the point where you understood that you could help people, so you did it. You were working at Harvard.
I mean, I was very excited about it for sure. And one of the things that was kind of devious that I didn't realize at the time until looking back on it is it's sort of like as far in as you go, you feel like you haven't done anything. It's very hard. It was very hard for me to appreciate my accomplishments. Even though I was doing things that I wanted to do, I always felt like it wasn't enough. It's just not enough. It's not, I wasn't, I didn't have the right title academically. I wasn't on a level where some of my peers would do. I mean, I remember even when I was at Harvard, I used to always go into the internet, and there's ways you can check, how many publications you've written, and I would check, if my publications had been printed, but I would also check people that were in my class and sort of on my same level, how many they had done, and then I would, if I saw that I had done more than them, then I would feel good. Or sometimes I would check, people that were a little bit ahead of me, maybe they're a little bit older than me, had they done as many publications as I've done, and
so it wasn't just the position that you were in, but also to see where you were in standing, in reference to your peers.
For sure. I mean, one of the things that it's funny, my wife has always told me that I was also very into competitive sports, and one of the things that my wife always said, it's not competitive sports aren't so good. It's not. And I was like, no, competition is terrific. I love competition.
Yeah.
I want to, if you don't have competition, then that's the fire that sort of motivates you to continue to go forward. Of course you want to be competitive. I mean, those people that, as they always say, those people that can't, then they don't.
Right.
And so that's kind of.
How does that fit with oncology? I mean, oncology is a profession where you really have to devote yourself to your patients and really have to be focused on them. Is there room for competitiveness there?
For sure. I mean, you want to be the best doctor, the most sought after, the most, all of those things. Wow. I mean, obviously there's a big side of me that wanted to be an oncologist to take care of people in a very difficult time. But yeah, you wanted to make a breakthrough and something in research or something.
Mm-hmm. And how did you grow up in terms of Yiddishkeit?
So basically, we grew up in what you'd call modern Orthodox. We were living in Boston and then in southern Connecticut. And I went to high school at New York, sort of yeshiva high school, co-ed, day school education. My parents were both very much Balei Tshuva, and so we sort of became more religious as the years went on. I was the oldest child, and so sometimes come home from school with stuff. Hey, by the way, my rabbis told me this is something we should be doing, and then my parents would be like, and then they're actually, amazing that they were able to make that jump from non-Torah observance to really trying to give us a Torah education, and we all of our family really improved in that way, and so I think that we made great leaps as a family, but obviously there were elements that I was just telling my wife recently, until I went to camp as a 10-year-old or 11-year-old, I don't remember that there was anything called Tisha B'Av, because we didn't have school in the summer, so there was mostly just baseball, the Red Sox and things like that. That was what there was in the summer. There wasn't the 3 weeks. I don't remember that.
Right. Wow. So you saw some development in the home over the course of time.
No, for sure. And also I had great teachers and people that influenced me, and I was very involved in NCSY as a kid, and it was something that was always very important to me.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. So you come from this background focusing on developing in your profession and really conquering it, and also development in Yiddishkeit comes to the point of making Aliyah. You actually mentioned it was your wife who was more the one in.
She was definitely the one that said, it's time to go. Yeah, for sure. We both wanted to do it. It was a joint decision, but I think it would have taken me maybe a little bit longer, because I spent another year working at my job in Boston before I was able to make the switch.
Wow. That's a serious challenge.
It wasn't so much fun. It's a long story, but it ended up being much longer than we thought. It's a very hard year.
Mm-hmm. And so you went back and forth?
Yep. I was a frequent flyer. I even made it to platinum on El Al. The golden, get platinum cards.
Did that also feed your sense of
course,
kavod?
Yeah, sure, for sure.
Oh, wow.
I get upgraded, sit in business class. I even once sat in first class. It was pretty special.
Wow.
I was very excited about that.
Wow. Okay. And of course, I'm sure, in the Israeli medical community, saw a doctor coming from Harvard, accomplished, ready to come and take over and really take care of patients and do the work. How did that work out?
It's interesting. When I first got here, I obviously felt as many, I think, I'll just speak about myself. And I felt like the people here were a little bit native in their approach. They didn't exact. I mean, like like natives like coming down from the trees, like with
brutal.
They weren't quite up to speed. There wasn't. They weren't doing things the way that we did them at Harvard. They weren't on the technology. There was a lot of things that I mean, I saw it as a mission actually. My field was underdeveloped, and I felt like there was a lot that I could bring to radiation oncology here in Israel. But for sure, there was some clashes between my view of what things should be and.
Did you set up your position before you came?
Yeah, I was mamash hashkacha pratit, all the way, every step of the way, helping me to make the transition as smooth as possible. Hashem really wanted us to come here, and He made it as easy as possible. We were very lucky with that.
Wow, that's great. And so where did you start working?
So I've been working for 7 years now in Beilinson and Petach Tikva, and I've been there since we started.
Wow.
So I've been very lucky that way.
Fantastic. And your family's adjusted and?
Well, as kids make aliyah, they learn Hebrew rapidly. I mean, the first year was very tough, especially for some of the older kids. But, now, I mean, my kids are much more Israeli than they are anything else.
Right.
America is sort of like where you go to visit, Bubby and Zadie, but it's not. It seems like there's always, fun things to do there, but they don't have association with a lot of American culture necessarily.
It's a good place to visit.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, great. So what's going on after that? I mean, you're developed in your profession, moved to Israel, family's adjusting, your wife is also working. What happened then?
I mean, basically everything was fine. I mean, I feel like, there were issues and we were challenges, and I had some challenges at work and sort of ongoing things that seemed to keep cropping up, getting into run-ins with people, but overall, successful, moving forward in my profession, getting, recognition here in Israel, being able to make a parnassah, which is not simple in any field. We were able to buy a house. We were very fortunate, living in a wonderful community, trying to get involved in the community, be involved. Again, there were some small conflicts there, but Baruch Hashem, things were good, I guess, ultimately, I thought.
And
then they weren't so hot, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
What do you mean?
I guess, when it comes to being here, at Shakuf, I don't know how this all happened. My wife, a couple of years ago, maybe 5 years ago, brought in some books about Breslov into the house. She was actually the one that first sort of opened the door. And
sounds familiar.
Yeah. And, there were some lectures that I had heard, and it was kind of interesting, and there were some wackos in the yeshuv that were busy learning about Rabbi Nachman, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll go to some of them who were my neighbors, so I figured, let's try this out.
And you thought the payas looked cool?
No, not so much.
No?
No, not really.
Okay.
I think it's funny. I feel like I was listening to all these classes and shiurim on tapes and things, and I'm like, why is it always talking about me? Why am I always the subject? It would be a subject of not getting angry at home, or something that about tikkun amidot. I'm like, why is it always about me? Why is the topic it's just again? Why is he speaking about me? Why can't I speak about somebody else for a change?
I don't know about you, but I was thinking the same thing. I don't know. Yeah.
And so I mean, I just felt like here was something that was really addressing the things that were really holding me back. Every year, it's funny. One of the things I was just thinking about this today. When I came to go to Shakuf, I was thinking to myself, there was a bunch of guys, and I felt peer pressure to come here because it was new and exciting. One of the things I said is every year I go into Elul and I think, okay, let's pull out the list of the things that I need to work on. And then I look at the list and I'm like, that's the same list as last year. And at some point I thought to myself, why do I have to work on the same things every time? Why can't I ever move forward, make progress? Every year, comes Elul, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to be here, and I'm going to be there, and all of these kabbalot, and then get to Rosh Hashanah, and maybe they didn't happen, maybe they did happen, and daven, and be into the tefillot, and Yom Kippur, and then Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, and back to where he was in Rosh Chodesh Av, and
wow,
just
So you felt every year, Elul, you want to make it. I want to change. I want to make a difference. I want to change my life, and you felt like you were going through the routine
I just
again.
felt like I was going in circles.
Wow.
Things weren't moving forward. And I felt like some of the things that I was hearing in these classes was really like, wow, I never thought about it that way. But and then I saw like sometimes like all of a sudden there would be like a flash of light where I would like actually do something that one of the rabbis or people lectures that I had said, and I'd be like, that really made a difference in my life. Like, maybe I should do that again.
Wow.
But I had a sort of a very big standoffish approach to sort of the whole Breslov thing because this wasn't the way I grew up.
What did you feel about Breslov?
It's not my thing. I mean, we grew up, sort of modern Orthodox, Tzioni Dati, whatever you want to call it, Kippa Struga and all that
Not
stuff.
jumping on trucks.
No, mamash not. I mean, I always enjoyed dancing around and having a good time, but not that. It just wasn't me. Certainly wasn't the way that.
So what did you feel when you came into a place where the whole focus was?
Well, I mean, I remember, I don't know how it was exactly that the couple of friends, Eric Fuchs is sitting here, he was one of the people, and somebody else, said like, hey, we're going to do this thing for Shakuf. And I was like, that sounds like a fun thing to do. I had absolutely no idea what I was getting into, like zero. And it's like, have to be there at 5:30. We were over in Modi'in in the basement there. And I rushed, I was running late, because I tend to sometimes run late if I'm like busy, I'm doing too much. I went from the hospital, I can't finish the patients. I get there, I was probably about 10 minutes late, and I walk down into this thing, I'm like, where is it? It's like not in the shul, it's in the basement. And I'm like, come down the steps, and I open the door, and whoa, there's like a lot of people here. What am I doing here? Wow. And I like look at the people, I'm like, these aren't my people.
Didn't have Red Sox t-shirts on?
No, not so much. I was like, and then, like, of course, everyone like motions you to sit in the middle, in the inner circle. And I'm like, no, it's okay. I'll just stand in the back. I'll just watch for a little bit. Like, no, it's okay. And then I sit there, and I'm like, what did I do? How did I get here? What is this? And that lasted for definitely the first hour. Like, I'm just not here. This is just such a big mistake.
Because
I don't know, it's just not for me. But like, of course, like within the first session, like there were some songs that were really powerful, and people were talking about real things. I'm like, this is real. This is like, people are talking about stuff. Like I listened to like the next guy who looks to me, if I met him on the street, like I wouldn't have anything to do with him. And suddenly I feel like he's talking about things that are at the core of what's really bothering me in my life.
Wow.
And I start to listen, I'm like, oh, yeah, I could use some work on that.
Had you ever had that experience before?
Not in that way. Mamash, not in that way. It was like, all of a sudden I just felt like, I feel like I was plugged in. I feel like I had been plugged into something completely different. I still remember at the end of the first session that I was ever here, it's now over I guess over 2 years ago, I'm like, I remember what I said. I'm like, I now know what it feels like for the cancer patient to like come into the doctor and hear about the treatment plan and say, okay, when do we start, doc?
What do you mean?
Like I felt like there was something here that was gonna really make a significant difference in my life, and I was like, okay, let's go.
And it was just it was like an aura? It was like something you couldn't put your finger on?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there were moments where I was like, just so firmly identifying, like, something that Giddy said or something that someone else said, and like, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what I've been working on all these years with no clue of how to fix it.
Wow.
Like, yeah, that's me. And of course, the person, I tends to be somewhat of a judgmental person, and the person that was saying it was like someone that I would never talk to, ever. I would never talk to that person. He's just totally not my type. And here he is saying something which is totally speaking to me.
So you suddenly felt a connection.
Yeah.
On a deep level?
Yeah, and like I spent the whole week like humming the song, and like I'm like, what is this thing? Like what is this? Like I'm just like I was like just I don't know. It's weird. Wow. And the best part is that I didn't really sign up for the sadhana.
What?
Yeah, I at the time I talked with Eric and some other guys, and they're like, yeah, it's kind of like this informal thing. You just come and like it'll be okay. And like I showed up and like after the words, everyone has like a tomech and a partner, and I'm like, I'm not on the list. And I go over to Aaron, and Aaron's like, who are you? I'm like, well, I spoke with Eric and some other people involved in Shakuf, and they said it would be okay. He's like, you can't just come without signing up.
This sounds like a very difficult position for an oncologist who's been extremely accomplished to walk into a room and suddenly somebody's saying to you, who are you? What are you doing here?
Yeah, I think that was very powerful. Like, I was just nothing. Wow. Nothing. Just like another one of the plebes, so to speak.
Uh-huh.
And of course, then the most amazing thing that happened, and this is like consistent with everything that's happened from then until now, is, Alon looks at me in the eye and he's like, you look like a nice guy. I think we'll let you stay. Just like that amazing kindness and chesed, and just like, I was like, wow, that's refreshing. And like, that's what it's been ever since then. Just like, people like just saying like, I really believe in you. Like, you could stay.
You mean people were paying attention to you, not because you're a doctor, not because of your accomplishments in Yiddishkeit or...
Nothing.
Or just, wow, here's a Jew. Let's hang around. Let's see what's he got.
I mean, the whole first year, that I was in Shakuf, it happens to me now, over and over again. At first, I'm like, again, like, I'm in a small group with 5 other people, and I'm thinking, none of these people have a college education. I bet that, whatever. And I'm thinking all these thoughts, and I'm like, and then of course, like, these people are like helping me to solve problems that I've spent years trying to work on, and they're amazingly deep, and they have so much to share, and there's so much that I get from them, and I have to like each time like scratch my head and be like, every Jew is like amazing.
Wow.
And that's something that I always knew, like in the back of my mind, that my wife would remind me of, and that I never seemed to internalize because I was just not really focusing on it. But for sure, like, it's an amazing thing. Like, you sit there and you see like someone who's 20 years younger than you or 20 years older than you, they're going through the same thing, and you think to yourself, they're amazing. If they could do it, I could do it.
Wow.
And you realize it's just like their neshama is just talking to you. Like, you feel like you're connecting with their neshama. And then you realize that like everyone's like that. Everyone has something that they're working on. Nobody is perfect. Nobody is getting 100% on the test. Everyone is down there in the mud, scratching and clawing, trying to
So the competitiveness was gone?
No.
Okay.
Mamash not. So I remember Giddy recently said, if you're in competition with anybody or anything, even like a poster of yourself, you can't really daven to Hashem.
Wow.
And right there I knew that's for sure right. Just the level of competitiveness. What is competitiveness? Competitiveness, academics, medicine, all that stuff. The year that before I came to Shakuf, I ran 4 marathons and a 200-kilometer relay race, and whatever. You can go on and on. Right. Can do everything. Right. Of course. Everything is nothing. And competition. It's all about competition. More. Just give me more. And one of the things that happened to me when I eventually went to Oman, like one of the first things that I felt when I was there was, you got to get rid of all of that. Competition is just not good. And of course, this is something that my wife has been telling me for years. And
Binu Yisera, what can you do? Wow. So what is it that you grabbed onto? You said you were there, you were feeling it, you were recognizing a connection with other Jews in a way that you haven't experienced before. What was your next step?
Well, my next step was I went to my tomech. And of course, the whole thing is so classically, it couldn't have been drawn up better on a Hollywood screen. Like, my tomech lives in this out there yeshuv, in a basement apartment, in a couple of rooms, and he's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, why am I here? What am I doing here? Mm-hmm. It's like the middle of the night, and I'm in this dark place, parking my car on the side of the road, in this Taimani yeshuv, and I go in, and we start talking. And it's very easy, very smooth going conversation. Of course, I'm talking about myself, just like now. But then after a couple of meetings, I realized that there starts to ask some questions, and I'm like, I never quite thought about it that way. And of course, between that and like the gift of like Hippolyte, like things started to move a little bit, slowly, very slowly. Just like the ice started to thaw a little bit.
Since you mentioned Hippolyte, I mean, I know as somebody who came to Breslov not so long ago, it's this strange thing where people are talking about Hippolyte, and then you say, okay, what is it? And then people are saying, no, you just have to go figure it out. But what
I mean, for
happened?
me as someone who tries to be as busy as possible and do as many things in 24 hours as possible with as little sleep as possible, Hippolyte is A, struggle, and B, without it, I would be just like something very dangerous. I mean, I feel like when I think about Hippolyte, it's like the time that I have actually to figure out what's going on. Like Cheshbon HaNefesh, like saying Kol Hashem, be angry. I mean, my kids already can say like, oh, Abba's come back from Hippolyte. It's now
They can see it.
It's now safe to enter the kitchen. No, I mean, in Baruch Hashem, like, it really makes a huge difference. Like, if I've been able to do my Hippolyte, I've been able to, like, then be listened and attentive and give, and it's an amazing gift where you just talk to Hashem about what's really going on. And I don't know, it just never happened for me.
You davened before. I mean, you...
Yeah, davening, but not like that. I don't know, just like, it's like very open. Like, at first I was like, how many... 19 minutes left. 19 and a half minutes. 18 minutes.
What did you commit to at the beginning?
I think 20 minutes. Of course, I had to take something big because I wanted to be, more than most people that were the sadna. And of course, very soon I was up to an hour, of course, because I wanted to commit to, something mashmoti.
Did you get a round of applause when he said?
Sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Great.
But it works.
Wow.
It's like a little trick,
It comes at you at the back door.
Yeah. I mean, so many things. Like, I know people say, oh, you'll figure it out and he'd better do it. Like, I'm talking to myself, what am I going to figure out? And then all of a sudden, like, I'm there and I'm like, that's what I need to be doing. And then, like I realized, like, this is such an opportunity for Hashem to be able to speak to me. Like, an amazing gift of Hashem being able to tell me things that I wouldn't know. And all of a sudden, like, I realized, like, I could have spent years trying to figure that out, b'koach, but I wouldn't have gotten anything. I think like so much of what is going on in Shakuf is a person just taking a firm look at themselves in a very non-judgmental way. Where am I holding? What's going on with me? We're so afraid to do that, I think, on a daily basis, to just, what is really happening with me? Where am I really holding, at home, with my kids, at work? Let's be honest with each other, really. Honesty was something else that I've really been working on, and something that I got from being here at Shakuf, about just so important to just be open and honest. Why is that so hard for me, to be honest and to be open about my feelings? And not be fear of, who's going to reject me and who's not going to accept me and who's, going to say something about it. And just like, no, but that's who I really am. Let's just be honest about how things are. Like, so what? So you'll get, clobbered over the head. You'll tell your wife, I wasn't paying attention to you just now. And she'll say, what? But at least I'll have been honest. At least I'll have come clean. Right. At least I'll have actually said what's going on. At least I'll be able to be, right now I can't continue this conversation. I'm not there. It's just a huge gift. I mean, I don't know, why was that so difficult?
So, you've mentioned Shakuf and Tomchim and things like that. Is it about the program? What is it? Is it?
Shakuf is like, just what it says. It's nothing. Just a bunch of guys sitting around in a room, or women, I guess. It's an opportunity to meet yourself. I think one of the things that attracted me from the very beginning to the whole process was that it's not about like a technique or about a 10-step process it's just about that fact, the belief that each person has inside of them the ability to fix themselves with Hashem's help. That each person, if they connect to Hashem, they connect to the tzaddik, they can actually, they know all of the things that they need to know inside of them. As a tomech, and just basically helping people to do what they can do. When you believe in somebody and you believe in yourself, that Hashem doesn't want me to be sad. He doesn't want me to be upset. He wants me to be happy as possible. He has so much stuff that he wants to give me. It's just a matter of me actually being awake enough, as you said, honest enough, and being willing to deal with the difficult things along the way to be able to get what Hashem is trying to give me. Wow. So it's not like sit in a circle, do this, clap here. There's no, like Giddy said, it's like not like planned ahead of time. It's just each person's opportunity to meet with themselves through also meeting with other people and giving to other people. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that was so powerful to me, this whole thing, is like the importance of learning to be a giver. Like, I thought I was like a big giver, like I was a doctor and I was taking care of people. But then I realized like how little I was like actually really trying to give to all of the different people, like as opposed to just like trying to take.
Really? How does that work in a situation where you're talking about people who have cancer?
It's interesting. I mean, so much of what I do today as a physician is so different than what I used to do. It's just changed completely. I mean, part of, when patients would come, it was me being able to give my advice, being wise, having people listen to me. Again, also helping them, of course. I care about them. I care about my patients. I love when they succeed, and but like,
just being the doctor who has the way to help, and you can count on me. I'm going to show you.
Yeah, I'm going to come in and save the world. And now, I mean, again, of course, this is also things that my wife has always been telling me to do, but, to start talking to patients about davening. It's not about me, it's about the Rabbanu Shalom. Chiloni patients, from patients, Hasidic patients, whatever. It's amazing. I mean, I've just been blown away by the response, and I finally decided, that's it, and I'm going to start talking to patients about davening. I'm going to start talking to patients about hiporadut. I'm going to start talking to patients about most of what we talk about is like dealing with fears. How do you deal with your fears? And like through that, we talk about hiporadut. Mm-hmm. And like people, like one woman said to me, a young woman with breast cancer, she said, why don't they talk about this in the news when they mention about religion? Why is this never brought up? Like she started to cry. She was like, why was she crying? She's because I was taking care of this important rabbi, and I was reading something in the Kutei Moharan about Pidyon Nefesh, and Rabbi Nachman says you have to be able to give Pidyon Nefesh if you want medicine to be able to work. And so I was like, I need to do that. I told this Rav that, and he's like, yeah, you need to do that. And I started doing it. I tzedakah box out, which of course something also my wife said, would be good, and put that out and get the patients. It's like, before you leave, I'd like you to try to do Pidyon Nefesh. Chiloni, kibbutzniks, whatever. What do we mean? We give tzedakah. I'm like, no. This is for you. This is tzedakah that you're going to give now to take the gzar din that was on you for this and change it to something else. And you see all of a sudden, like, iftach. Like for 1 second, like for 1 minute, like a person who has no kesher to Rabbanu Shalom, mitchaber, niftach. And why? Because something inside of them says, oh, that's what I've been waiting to do.
Suddenly they're willing to give, to make a connection.
To take responsibility for themselves, which is amazing when you see this happening. In the last year, I mean, I said this to people at the Sadna, just some of the things that we learned at Shekufa, I've tried to help people quit smoking, because obviously it's important in what I do to stop. I mean, it's bad for business, but it's good for people. Right. So, the method, just using simple things about making a decision and having emunah in yourself has helped tens of people quit smoking. Not me, but like just having people believe in themselves, take responsibility. And I tell them, you have to give yourself encouragement. I'm getting better. I'm doing more for myself. And all of those words, just like those things, those basic things of encouraging myself. Mm-hmm. I never learned to encourage myself. When did I ever encourage myself?
You learned to push yourself to do better. You learned to.
But see, here's the thing. When I was pushing myself, it was so that other people would clap for me. I mean, maybe not like clap, but
recognize you.
Yeah, recognize me. See where I was coming from, and suddenly I was learned here. You need to give yourself encouragement. You need to be able to recognize when hey, I was mitgaber. I was able to overcome this temptation or this will to be angry. I was able to move forward. And then when you give it to somebody else,
Wow.
It's
beautiful.
I mean, my kids, just like to be able to talk to them about, right here you did something amazing. And then you see like your kid look at you like, wow, Abba said something smart.
Wow. Since we're coming since we're in Elul, coming up to Rosh Hashanah, what about Uman? Did Uman make an impact on you?
So I have to say that that was the part of it which was very, very uncomfortable for me. I mean, even all of the things that I learned about Breslov and whatever, I'm like, there's a lot of wisdom here. It's all good. Rabbi Nachman is wise, and other Rabbanim are wise, and there are many different ways, and And then when I was in the sadhana, sometimes Gidi asked people to sing, and the men to sing or whatever. And that day that I was talking, or I got myself into trouble by saying something out of turn or something like that, he's like, well, why don't you sing, Ashreinu shezachinu litkarev l'Rabbeinu. And I said, listen, this is all nice. I like the sadhana, but that's a little bit much. I'm not comfortable with that. And one of my friends said to me, he's like, why do you have such a big block against this? Like, what is it about this that's so hard for you? And I realized that there was a place that was not willing to nullify myself, I guess, to be able to leap batel, to be able to say that there's someone else that might be smarter than me or that I had to connect to somebody else in order, to move forward. And certainly not something in the Ukraine or whatever. That was not on my plan. But you know what it was? Again, the same thing that got me into Shakuf got me to go to Uman the first time. It was sort of like this, a friend of mine was going, he was getting to go, I also wanted to go. If he's going to be in the sadhana, I'm going to be the star in the sadhana. I'm going to win. I'm going to win at Shakuf. Scored 100 at Shakuf.
I'm going to win at nothing.
Right, win at nothing. That's a good one. Right, win at nothing. Well, that's what moved me. I was like, I got to go. And I said to my wife, I got to go to Uman. She's like, what? When are you going? So, and then I went, and I was on the bus. I'm like, why am I doing this? This was such a big mistake. And I'm like there, and I'm like, and of course, it's just like once you're there, you realize that it was not a mistake. I mean, like I said, there were things, critical things that were so important to whatever's happened since then. That kesher with Rabbi Nachman really made a huge difference with me. It wasn't something that I was planning on. It wasn't where I came from. But, I think someone once said to me, listen, there's someone here that offers to help. Do you need help? Yes, I need help. Well, would you like to try? Sure. So that, I was like, okay, take this pill, So I'm like, okay, take the one pill. And it was amazing. It just totally changed things. I mean,
one thing I would be interested in hearing is, do you feel like you're the same person with a different kind of focus on your life? Or do you feel like you've just changed? You're like a different person. You don't really relate to what it was before.
Of course I relate to what was before. I mean, I'm the same person. I have all the same experiences and qualities and talents. I think that's one of the things that really is unique about Shakuf. It's not like, okay, now you're in Shakuf. Please put on the Shakuf suit. Put on the helmet. You are now part of Shakuf. And whatever you had up until now, forget about that. No, it's like what you had up until now is you. Now let's see how you can take that piece of you, that which is unique to you. All of the experiences you have, your parents, your family, your education, and now just take it and use it for the good. No one ever said to me, listen, you're a doctor. You got to give that up and go learn in yeshiva. It wasn't like that. Again, that's extreme maybe, but it was, you're doing something really good. You're a physician. Now use it in the right way.
Put yourself into it.
I mean, just my interaction with my parents, which was something which was so difficult for me, in many ways. And here there was something was saying, listen, you gotta, accept how you feel about this, accept what happened, and see how you can make something good out of it. It took me a long time it took me a lot of hours and a lot of time. I just talked to my parents today. I just thought to myself, I'm like, how are we having this conversation? And again, there's tons of work left to be done, but it's so different than where it was. But it doesn't mean that like my parents, that was a mistake, and put that away. That's who I am. I'll always be their son. They'll always be my parents. I need them, even if I don't like certain things about the way things went between us when I was growing up. I mean, I think sometimes people say at Shakuf, come to Shakuf, and they said, so, what happened when you were a little kid? And like, and then you feel like, well, why are you trying to dig into something? Either it was painful or it wasn't painful. I'm basically okay. Just kind of, that's really not.
Let's leave that in the past.
It's not relevant. Like, let's talk about like where I am right now, and just the understanding that it's not a negative thing. This is what the Rabbanu Shalom sent you to do. He put you with these parents. He put you in these experiences. He wanted you to go through all of those things because at the end you were meant to learn something. It's like it's like medical school. Like, it doesn't mean if you get a doctorate on one day they call you up and say, hello, we're here. We'd like to give you a MD. It doesn't work that way. You have to go through all the processes. That's what the Rabbanu Shalom wants. And like the appreciation that was for a reason.
I want to open up to questions, if anyone has any questions for Dr. Aaron Alon. If not, I'll continue. How long have you been doing Shakuf?
Yeah, so I think that I started doing Shakuf after, like right around Shavuos time 2 years ago. So it's a little bit more than 2 years. And I think one of the questions that sometimes people wonder about, they said, he went to Shakuf and he never came out. How does that work? And I think that the same question is like, what is Shakuf? The bottom line is like what I feel like it's just pure Avodat Hashem. It's like if you can say to yourself, I've stopped doing Avodat Hashem, you could. It doesn't mean you have to come specifically to this building, but it does help a lot. I mean, there's just a process here. There are amazing people here. I mean, I feel like, somebody said, they came here for the first time a few weeks ago, and they just felt like the Kedusha that was in this building. I just think about so many people that have been helped, so many lives that have been changed, so many families that have been saved, so many people have just become amazing people through this process. And it's just because of the interactions here, it's because of people like Eran and Giddy that give their whole neshama and just really want to help people. And all of the people that are here, it's like this feeling of like, you're not alone. We care about you. We care about you.
And you who you are, not for any kind of external thing. It's are a unique person.
Again, like it's like just that thing, like, all of a sudden you hear someone talking about something which you're like, I totally don't relate to this person. They don't come from my background. And then you think to yourself, you hear them like being, for the first time maybe ever, like you see it happens every time in this sadhana, for the first time someone actually is honest with what they're feeling, for the first time. And like you see like 150 people are about to cry. Why? Because like all of a sudden, like the neshama is like coming out and saying, hello, I'm here. I know you forgot about me, but I'm here. And people see that. And it's amazing. It happens time after time after time. That, and it's because that people have decided just to give and to make the commitment to helping other people. That's what it's all about.
And to themselves.
Yeah. That I don't want to stay in the mud. But here's the thing. So, you say you've been in Shakuf for 2 years, so now you're fixed, right? So, I think one of the things that we happens every single time that we go to Shakuf and like every single cycle is you think that, now I've moved to Jedi level. I'm now, at the level where,
Okay, I made it.
Yeah, Sachakol sitting up here on the Biman, telling my story. Psh. And then, like, the next 5 seconds, you realize that you're back to square one. And that's okay. And it's learning to understand that, like, like Rav Nassan said, like, I take responsibility for my actions. I'm going to go back to square one. I'm going to realize that it's not a poster. And that, someone said to me, like, what is the definition of a Breslov chassid?
Yeah.
So it's someone who's decided that they're not coming back in the next field goal. Like they're going to get things done. Like they're going to do it.
That's a tall order.
Yeah, but it's possible. Every single person here has the ability to be a tzaddik. It's just a matter of just being committed to Ratzon. You don't have to be smart. You don't have to know the answers. You just have to have a lot of will and an ability to take criticism and to start again and to see where you made mistakes and to take responsibility. So much of the process is just taking responsibility. I mean, so many times, something unpleasant is like sort of hit you in the face, and then you say, yeah, okay. That was me.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you so much, Aaron. I learned a lot. I hope everybody else saw some light in what you said, and let's.
Thanks everybody for listening.